to see a lot of different piercings done in a variety of different ways. And although there's going to be a lot of similarities, there are going to be a lot of differences. The similarities are going to be the basics. The tissue is going to be held in place, pierced, as well as being cleaned and marked. And that's pretty much goes for everything. The differences are going to be how the tissue is actually held in place. The fingers that the piercer uses to manipulate the tissue, the angle the needle is held at. Some needles are going to be bent, some aren't going to be bent. And because there's such a difference in opinions and ways to do things, you're going to see a few different piercers do different piercings in different ways. It doesn't necessarily make there a right way or wrong way to do things, just the way the piercer feels comfortable. And that's one thing I really try to stress in this. There's not one right way or wrong way to do anything. So try different techniques of holding, try different needle bends. It's all about how you feel comfortable. Now you're also going to see that you're probably going to have to watch this DVD a couple of times to fully understand all this. And to try to make things easier to understand what you're looking at, I have actually put little clips in before and after the videos to explain a lot of the differences you're going to be looking for. I also voice over some of the actual video clips explaining what you're looking at, so once again you can try to gain more understanding from this whole DVD. If you don't understand what you're looking at, then all this is null and void and there's no point in this. So hopefully you can walk away from this with some more information that will help you in your everyday piercing career. Now, this didn't come easy. This is something that has taken me over a decade to get together and get to this point now. So of course, I mean, it's all about bracing the tissue correctly, knowing and understanding your angles, and a whole lot of practice. That being said, I'll shut the hell up and we can get some piercing. To execute a proper freehand piercing, two things are needed: proper tissue bracing and needle control. Here are a few ways to brace the tissue that you will see in the course of this video. This method entails the index finger and thumb bracing the back of the tissue on one side with a small gap in between the fingers which accepts the needle. This is great for a variety of piercings such as navel, nipple, lobe, and helix. For this method, simply grab the side of the tissue and simply pinch and roll the skin and pierce as deep or shallow as needed. This method, great for eyebrows, nostrils, and throwing hooks. This method is the same as the side pinch, but the index finger from the other hand giving the skin some extra bracing. Use this method wherever extra tissue support is needed, such as nipples, frenums, and guiches. This method employs the use of the middle and index finger providing back pressure to the tissue, while the thumb pinches on the other side. Needle is placed under the thumb. The tissue can be folded over, and the exit point is visible. Piercing can then be executed. This method can be utilized for tongues and inner labia. You'll find that throughout the course of this video, most needles I use are actually bevel down. This is because a needle does not take out skin, it moves it out of the way. During a piercing, pushing a needle through this way is going to move that skin to the top, which is going to give you more resistance, be a little bit harder to push through, be a little bit more traumatic for the client, whereas if you push needle down, bevel down, it'll move all that skin down to where there's more surface area. It's going to be so much easier to push through, so much less resistance, and easier for the client and you. Because the blade needle edge actually cuts as it goes through, having it turned away from you during the actual piercing is going to give the weak spot at the other end of the piercing, bracing and leaving the strongest part on the actual shallowest part of the actual tissue. This is going to be primarily exactly the same premise as the way surgeons use the reverse cutting needles. You can see the actual sharp edge is turned away, beveled down, just as we use as well. To hold everything in your hands during the actual procedure. There are many ways to do it. I'm going to show you a few of my tried and true techniques. Grabbing the needle, I always have this in my right hand, bevel facing down, braced within the tightest part of my fingers to eliminate any kind of movement. This way I still have my 3 fingers on each hand to manipulate the tissue as I see fit, but also I'm not going to run the risk of piercing myself. I will run the risk of possibly piercing the client, so be very careful. Try to hold the needle away from yourself. Now, because these 3 fingers are being used, you still have these 2 fingers to hold things on each side. I'm holding the needle here, but I could still hold a barbell, a ring as needed be, or if I need to, I can even use the little staple pin coupling, so I'm able to do my piercing, insert the jewelry, or if I need the pin coupling, if I need the ring, if I want to put the pin coupling back, use the ring over here. The main thing is getting real comfortable and nimble with your fingers. I've been doing freehand for 10 years. This did not come to me overnight. It was a lot of practice. One of the things I did early on, before I got more nimble with my fingers, was pouch things, not just palming, but using gauze and using this in my hand. Needle piercing, and this way I still have my hands and there's not running the risk of losing or dropping anything. I know other piercers prefer to use 2x2s, just fold it in their hands and they open it up directly. Again, it's how you feel comfortable. There is not one way to do anything, and I'm sure there's techniques to hold things that are far superior than this. This is just what works for me. Now, because these 2 fingers are going to be used most of the time here, I usually like to just put stuff there. I do have other friends that like to hold stuff there, but sometimes when I have to grab a ring, grab this, sometimes I feel like I could lose that there. I don't particularly feel comfortable with that, but if you do, awesome. You'll see through this video that I use a lot of bent needles. While a lot of people choose to buy them, I choose to bend mine myself. These are a couple of different needle styles we'll be using. Of course, the straight needle you seem to use for so many piercings these days. For certain navels and certain flat stomachs, I tend to use one with a slight arch to be able to go a little bit higher and easier to go through. For labrettes, I usually mimic the actual angle I have on that side in the back, so that way I can fold the lip over, lay that down, lay the lip over, and kind of get a good idea of exactly where I'm going to be doing. Flip the needle at that same angle and pierce. And the hook, one of my favorites. This is for traguses, oh, this is so nice. It just fits in the back of the thumb, allowing you to actually pierce the tragus inside out. Real nice, real easy. This is another hook, real similar. You're going to notice the angles are almost the same. The only difference you're really going to see is, I don't know if you can see the actual little kinks in that one. Done with just a set of brass jaws, and that's real nice and smooth. It was done with technique that Pat Tidwell showed me. That was done with just 2 steel eyelets, a set of brass jaws. Placing the needle inside the groove. Bend it as you need and where you want to put the bend. If you want something a little bit tighter, grab a 2-gauge eyelet, 1/4 inch. Once again, putting it in the groove. You can just put that bend wherever you want. Open it up if you need to slightly. Make sure your thumb fits nice and good in there. And look at that. Perfect. Change the angle if you want to bring it in a little more. Everything you wanted to know about needle bending.
Grasping each end of the needle and bending it, you are able to create an arc at any angle where you would like one. Once you have it roughly where you want it, then you can mold it to fit your thumb perfectly to get a great grasp of it for your upcoming procedure. Grasping each end of the needle and bending it, we create an arc more towards the front third of the needle. We then fine-tune the bend. We can utilize the extra needle length with our thumb and forefinger for extra needle control during the procedure.
taper, a needle, and a piece of gauze. The taper inserted to the needle will serve as a recapping instrument. With the gauze here, you can see how with the taper I align my marks, get everything where I need to. Once everything is aligned, I pierce with the needle and push the taper through, essentially recapping the needle. At this point, I am then able to insert jewelry and do anything I need to. Traveling as much as I do, and piercing in as many different studios and with as many different artists as I have, one of the things that I really seem to have noticed is some people don't fully understand the insertion process. I'm going to show you here with my assistant Justin how I like to do things. Just a regular little needle, especially for inserting captives. I like to open the rings this way as opposed to twisting them. Insertion just seems a little harder that way. But bevel down once again. Should give me a big deep breath in, Justin, and exhale. Bracing the tissue on each side with the ring, slowly push the needle out. Real quick, real easy. With the annealed ring, you are able to bend it, pop the bead in place. And you're done. Obviously this is not an actual permanent piercing, but I just wanted to show the actual insertion here. Thank you to my lovely assistant Justin for allowing me the use of his arm. When pushing a needle towards your fingers, namely needle sticks. This is one way I found to actually feel a little bit more comfortable doing that until you don't have to use them anymore. Thimbles. These things are really great. They come in different sizes. You could just go ahead and use them that way. Pierce in through them. Hold the tissue nice and taut with it. One thing I have noticed is you don't have any pressure sensations to let you know how much you're actually pushing on the skin or pinching it. And sometimes it can hurt if you're doing it a little bit too tight. There's a number of different ways that you can hold them, put them on, piercing in between them that way. You could put them on, piercing in between this way. Most studios still have a lot of these. If you use corks, chances are you probably got some of these laying around the shop anyway. Go ahead, try them on, see what you think, and again, the main thing is just don't hurt yourself. Feel comfortable with what you're doing. You can also put them on underneath your glove. I like this a little bit more. I seem to have more tension on the skin. It gives me a little bit more friction than just having the actual thimble itself. You're still able to pierce right in between it. Sometimes I use a third thimble on that finger, or used to. But just again, practice till you feel comfortable. They come in many different sizes. Good stuff.
A recent study by the Joanna Briggs Institute showed another possible safeguard against glove perforations is the use of double gloving during procedures. The review did indicate wearing a second pair of gloves significantly decreases perforations to the innermost glove. The more layers between you and a sharp, the better. Another point of concern is the material the gloves are made from. Latex has shown itself to be very porous, where nitrile is a man-made polymer that is 3 times as puncture resistant as latex. Read more on gloves in an article I wrote for the Association of Professional Piercers Quarterly Magazine, The Point, issue 33.
Fixed gauge jewelry, glass plugs. That was the worst part. You good, man? Sweet. Bring it all the way without touching the other ear. So I gotta flip the second one, so I got it ready. Relax and breathe nice and slowly. Inhale. And out. Perfect. Ooh, that hurt. Another deep breath in. And out. Perfect, man. Really good. You okay? Yep. Did really good, man. Perfect. Ooh. You're all set.
Starting with the drape sheet, he does needle indentions to get an idea of the location of the piercing. Bracing the tissue with his thumb and forefinger, giving ample room to accept the sharp, he has the client exhale and pierces. Inserts jewelry, bracing the tissue. Disposing of needle, and piercing is completed.
And the dirt's off the skin. We're going to mark it. We're going to make sure exactly where it's going to be going, just so there are no ifs, ands, or buts, anything like that. Okay. Once we agree exactly where it's going to be going, location, placement, everything, you're actually be laying down for the actual piercing. Or if you want to, you can be sitting up. This is one that we can do either way. In the machine right here, I'm actually sterilizing everything I'm going to be using on you, down to the jewelry, needle, everything. Okay. So all I'm going to need from you, I'm going to get everything lined up. I'm going to need you to give me a big, deep breath in when I ask, and a nice, long, slow exhale. On the exhale, we'll pierce you. Insert the jewelry. We're going to decide what you need. Cool. You kind of wanted it up here, like in the upper helix out here? Yeah. On the rim? Awesome. Do you ever want to throw any other rings on there?
I have no idea. Possibly.
Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and put it in like these central locations. You ever want to go